everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after Game 4. Boy, heartbreaker. Look at the way this season has started. Heartbreakers, left, right, and center. What's going on here? It's interesting. I'm reading some of the comments in the chat room, and a lot of people saying we play like this, we're going to be okay. You know, everything's fine. And I went up, if you see my hit on Sportsnet Central, I talk about the idea that, you know, outside of two bad periods against the LA Kings, you're looking at a Jets team that for a good chunk of the time it's played in the other games has been the, you know, at least the equivalent, if not the better team for good stretches. I mean, tonight they outshoot Vegas. I believe it's 39-27. You take a look at this and you think, there's some phenomenal goaltending by Logan Thompson, who I believe leads the league in goals saved above expectation. I think you can add 3 or 4 or 5 tonight. Some of those saves he made tonight were outlandish. What a goaltender he has turned out to be. But yeah, I think the interesting part about this was the comments from Rick Bowness afterwards. Not at all letting his team off the hook. Not at all. But I think this is one of those things where the Jets are getting a lot right. And then there's just certain things that they're getting wrong. I think, you know, if you're looking for, you know, their season in a nutshell so far, and geez, do you need a nutshell? It's only 4 games in. It's pretty small, but that Calgary game said a lot. Like, they dominated the Calgary Flames in that game and made some fairly egregious mistakes on the way to losing that game. And I think if you talk to Rick Bowness, I think he would suggest that the same thing is playing out over and over and over again. I mean, I'll just get into the comments because, ladies and gentlemen, Renny's here. He's at the arena. He's in the new Ticketmaster lounge here at Canada Life Center. He's grinding away, right? He's doing TV. He's running up to do this. And we've got some time to kill, I'll tell you, because Kenny Wiebe, he's just taking a leisurely drive home. You're going to see him in his house, taking it easy. He's not here spending time with all you fine folks for Kenny and Renny. He's taking his time, taking it easy. You know, I'm trying to butter you all up if you don't notice, so I can kind of get you on my side. I don't know if it's going to be a contentious Kenny and Renny. I can never tell you when Ken is going to come on here with bad takes. I can only tell you that Renny usually comes on with consistently good takes. So we'll see what Kenny has to offer. Maybe he'll be too relaxed in his house, but one thing he'll have to kind of dig into is the idea from Rick Bowness that he said, I think this is the way that he'd said it, is that the Winnipeg Jets are making too many soft plays at important times of the game. And there's a little bit of backing up to be done here. Mike Kelly, who does a great job with stats in the NHL, said that the Vegas Golden Knights had 11 scoring chances, the results of turnovers by the Winnipeg Jets. And that's the thing. Rick Bowness has said, you want to slow a team down, turn the puck over, right? Because everyone is getting ready and everyone's winding up, and all of a sudden you turn the puck over, you're going the other direction. That just brings all momentum crashing to a halt. So he clearly believes that's one of the issues right now. One of the things that he'd said essentially is that if we're not going to stop allowing 4 to 5 goals a game, we're not going anywhere. I believe someone in the chat had already talked about that, but 19 goals in 4 games, that is not the what you're looking for out of your team when it comes to that. And, you know, goaltending will be a part of that. The Jets, apparently, by the analytics, are yet to have a quality start by the goaltender. And that includes tonight against Laurent Brossoit, who we will dig into what he offered tonight. I thought there were some times that I thought he had a shaky start that he got away with for the most part. A couple decent rebounds that were given up, but in the end, I don't know. I mean, the one thing we will say here, and you can say undoubtedly, you can have the idea of how many saves did he make? How many saves should he have made? All those kind of things. The one thing I think is always really the barometer when it comes down to it is, did you outplay the goaltender on the other side of the ice? And I don't think that anyone who watched this game would seriously take a look at this situation and suggest that Laurent Brossoit outplayed Logan Thompson on this night. That's my take on it. You know what? Kenny is finally ready to acknowledge all you fine folks' existence. He's at his house, comfy again. I'm telling you right now, I saw it. He did take his pants off before he sat down, so he's good and comfortable. He's got the polar bear slippers on. He's ready to go. So you know what time it is, everyone. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, you know it's got to be a Vittorio Rossi suit from Frankie and the Boys when you look good, even with the pants off, with the suit going on there. But you're looking like a million. But I gotta say, Ken, that suit, when you pull that out, when you've got that kind of that blue color with the is that a blue or is that a white shirt that you're wearing?
It's blue, yeah, blue.
Yeah, it's a little bit
texture
blue,
also,
and then the dark tie. Like, dude, you look like you're ready for the Oscars or something like that. You look like absolutely $1 million. Good show, good stuff. Of course you look like that because you always go down and see Frankie and the Boys at Vittorio Rossi. If you want to look like Kenny because he's looking sharp tonight, and I mean when he's got the pants on, if you want to look like Kenny, head on down to Corden Avenue, go into Vittorio, loudly exclaim that Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the Boys, and they will take care of you good and right. Ken, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. What'd you take away from tonight's game?
Yeah, first of all, I was listening on my phone during that opening. Now you're buttering me up after carving me.
This is what I do.
I had to hustle home because you weren't walking me to my car anymore. So anyways, what did I think? Well, Sean, I thought that the Jets outshot their opponent 10-0 to start the third period, but the old self-inflicted wounds came into play again in this contest. And that's been a problem for the Winnipeg Jets so far. There is no denying that. Rick Bowness went to that well in the postgame, and he's right. The Jets just are not handling the puck well. Their puck management has been poor at times. And as you mentioned, I mean, nobody's leaving this at the feet of the goaltenders. But Sean, 4 games in a row, the Jets had the second best goalie in the game. So we've said this all along, and this has nothing to do with, the individual play, but we've said this from the very beginning. The Jets cannot win a lot of games with average goaltending. They need above average to elite goaltending, and so far they haven't had that. But that's because they're not in structure. The Jets' structure is not in a position where they're allowing it to be an easy night for their netminders. And that's been a problem so far. I would say that the Jets are offensively, the Jets are generating plenty. Today they generated plenty of high danger chances. Logan Thompson was out of his mind in the third period. Does that mean the Jets only got goalied? Well, goaltending was a factor, but finishing is part of the I always say this, expected goals are important, but real goals are what count. And I understand expected goals are important and they can be, easier to monitor over the course of the season. But right now the Jets are not finishing at a level that is required for them to have success, even though they're playing really well at various points in the game. No, and the Jets puck management, like, I'm not blaming the goalies here. The Jets need to be better defensively and make life easier on their goalies. That's a problem. Puck management is a huge problem. Turnovers have been a huge problem. And losing battles is a huge problem. I understand. I mean, lots of people are, quick to jump on the Mark Scheifele reverting to whatever. The puck rolled off his stick on 2 of those on that play, and there's a lot of blame to go around. They lost a battle with Paul Cotter. That's how that play started. The Jets lost a battle along the wall. Cotter gets it down to William Karlsson, and then Alec Martinez evades his checker and goes bar down. Right? That's how that goal happened. There are all kinds of things that happened in that play, and it wasn't just one player. It's one thing being compounded. One mistake gets compounded by another, and that's been an issue for the Jets so far. And again, I don't think Logan or Lauren Brossoit let in any soft goals. I mean, some people will say it's a sharp angle for Eichel. Eichel goes with a ridiculous high shot. Great play. On that play, did you think it was tripping, or do you think Appleton was falling down right before he was trying
Appleton was falling down.
Yeah, there you go.
They looked at that play. That wasn't. Now, Remo had made a really interesting point, because prior to that, right after the Jets scored, there was a play in which Lowry was tripped, where Lowry was quite obviously.
Yeah, that was earlier. Yeah.
Point that the Vegas Golden Knights players essentially stopped playing. I thought, Ken, you can give me your thoughts on this. This is one of the nights where, I know, I don't love talking about the reffing, but I think it's one of those nights where we can. I thought that the refs let that one slide because the call that they had
and the
made,
Jets scored. Yes,
put the Jets on the power play was a phantom call. I couldn't, to be honest, I couldn't believe it was made. It's two players competing for the puck, and they're saying he held him. If you look at it in super slow motion, it's like a fraction of a television frame that his arm is around him, and there's clearly no grabbing or anything like that. Yeah. So I think what happened was the refs knew that they had just affected the outcome of the game, and that, but my thoughts on this, Ken. It's like, if you screw up, that's fine. You screw up. I don't like this whole, we're going to make it up here, we're going to make it up there. I know that the Vegas bench would have lost if that call would have been made at the time, but now you put yourself in this situation where you don't call the penalty on Lowry, and then you go down the other way, and now you are calling the penalty on Alex Iafallo. And I do think it was a penalty on Alex Iafallo. You're not supposed to get your stick into the hands. He did get the stick in the hands, and I know that Pat Rathwell was here, and Pat will be the first one to admit he's very, very slanted towards the Winnipeg Jets, and he's saying he doesn't think that call should be made. To me, it's a penalty, but when you're when you're taking a situation in which you've just allowed the Vegas Golden Knights to get away with the penalty, and I understand why they did it, but then you turn around and you call the Jets, that you're affecting the game, right? To me, it's just, at that point, refs are juggling, right? They're just throwing stuff up, and maybe they're going to grab that call, maybe they're going to grab that call. But if I'm a Jets fan, on one hand, you should be not upset with the refs tonight, because the refs really put them in the situation to have this game tied. But then you've got a reason to be upset with the refs after that as well. Again, the Mason Appleton thing, I'm kind of surprised the bench was so upset about it. Rick Bowness came out and talked about it and didn't seem to be upset with it at all. And I think the instant replay shows you Mason Appleton is already falling down trying to get it, and what the player does is he stick checks Mason Appleton's stick so that he can't chip the puck out. So I know that I was talking with a bunch of the OB guys and we were watching it on instant replay, but there wasn't anyone in the home media who seemed to think that should have been a call. I get that the Jets were frustrated in that situation, and I get the fans are frustrated because when you start playing that's a penalty, but we're not going to call it game. I think it gets frustrating. But I mean, I hate to say it, but reffing has really been playing a role in a lot of the outcomes of these Jets games.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the other part of the equation, and people may not like it, but Mark Stone is getting the benefit of the doubt because Mark Stone's one of the best defensive players in the NHL, right? So
Yeah.
if they see, there was definitely a stick check by Mark Stone on that play as well, but that's a good effort. That's an effort play, right? Mark Stone makes the extra effort and keeps the puck in, then to rub salt in the wound, gets the puck back and makes a perfect feed to Jack Eichel. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying it was a blatant penalty by any stretch. I mean, that's another great example of the Jets are Mason Appleton's making the extra effort to try to get it out, but at the end of the day, that puck's got to get out, right? So that's another thing. The Jets' penalty kill hasn't been great. I mean, the power play came through for them. That was a great tic-tac-toe, and this is what we've been saying for a long time, Sean. Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele have to find a way to coexist, and that's what they did on the tic-tac-toe play. Mark is an exceptional passer as well as being an exceptional shooter. So the fact that Ehlers can come down from that left point side, get it to Scheifele to the slot, it's in the back of the net. I mean, that's a beautiful play. And, there's Iafallo again showing people why he's on the top power play unit. Like, good job, great on retrievals, gets to the net, and he can shoot it. So good on him. Iafallo was great in the game, but tough for him in a game where he had such a big impact, Sean. And hey, he could have easily filled the hat for the hat trick. I mean, Logan Thompson absolutely robbed him on consecutive plays. One with his right pad and one with the ridiculous blocker save. Like, it was just exceptional.
Well, and he almost gets, after he scored the two, he redirects a puck that almost.
Oh, sure, another great tip as well.
So
Yeah,
he was on fire tonight. What a player he's become. Hey, Ken, I want to get into this. The people, I can tell they're hungry. The people are thirsty, and not just for some more Renny takes. That's not what it's all about. They've been going crazy with the Lamplighters and the keg save of the game. So let's get into that and get those things going right off the bat. What was your Lamplighter of the game, Ken?
Oh, I just think it has to be for me, it's the Iafallo goal. Like, just great puck movement. And yeah, I mean, hey, it's a clean one-timer. Fine. I mean, but it was what led to that play, and the fact that the Jets power play had chances but hasn't really been clicking. So the fact that they got that power play goal to put them in a good spot, I think it was important. Honorable mention on the Perfetti goal. I thought the Jets did a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and we'll dig into this a little bit more after we move on here. But for me, it's the Iafallo goal. But like I said, honorable mention to Perfetti for the nifty passing play by Vladislav Namestnikov.
I'm actually going to go with the Perfetti goal.
Sure.
That's the one for me. And I will say this, because we talked about this and we're trying to, suggest that the Jets are doing a lot of things properly, but there's these giveaways happening. If you watch that goal, it starts with a very, very egregious Mark Stone giveaway.
A rarity.
That creates the 3-on-2. So I did think as well that Vegas was playing a little bit casual, like, again, and it's early in the season. I don't want to negate what the Jets were doing, but this is a Vegas team that I thought for large swaths of that game played very, very loose, and that was an example of it. But I like that line tonight. That line created a lot. Namestnikov going up. And Ken, this is one of those things where, hey, if you're coming and looking for good analysis, Ken and Sean told you a long time ago that, yes, they were going to try Perfetti at second line center, but there was a very good chance you were going to see Vladislav Namestnikov come in. We called him the pressure release valve. When things got to be too much for Cole Perfetti, he was going to go in that spot. Why? Well, it allows Perfetti to go and move to the wing, but also we know that Namestnikov and Ehlers love playing with each other, and so that's what we saw tonight was coming through, and that's what we saw in that goal. I think what we also saw is Cole Perfetti kind of being, the handcuffs taken off, a little bit released, not having to play center and take on those responsibilities, and that's what we saw. So that goal for me is the Lamplighter, because I think at that point the Jets had fallen down 3-1. I think that they're in danger of falling out of that game.
Oh, yeah.
And that quick response was great. I like that. 2, I like it because Rick Bowness wanted more offense from that second line. He got it tonight. And 3, I think that may be the goal that really kind of gets Cole Perfetti going, because I think what we were seeing before this was a frustrated Cole Perfetti. I think this is what we're going to see is Cole Perfetti building towards just being a little bit freer and maybe more offensive than we've seen him in the first 3 games. That's my Lamplighter. We'd love for you to share with us your Lamplighter of the game, your goal of the game. Why? Well, if you do, you're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to give you an 8-pack, well, you can just head on down TransCanada Brewing Company. Join them in their tap room at 11290 Kenniston. You know, I love the blueberry. I love the Lamplighter. Their pizzas are amazing. Interesting enough, we are handing out gift cards this year. Lauren Finley got his already, handing out gift cards this year. So, you know, in the past it was Lamplighters. I think you can go there and you can use it on whatever your heart desires. And I'm going to tell you this, there is just one great thing after the other on the menu at TransCanada Brewing Company. So the flexibility that you have this year, it's pretty sweet. You want to jump in on this, because if you win, you've got the opportunity to head on down there and kind of pick from all those great choices I told you about. And the next person who can pick from those great choices, well, that would be Bobby B. I haven't seen Bobby B in the comments section yet, but I've seen Bobby B in the show quite often. Bobby B, you are the Lamplighter winner from last game, game 3. That means you're on the clock. So you have from now until the game Saturday against the Edmonton Oilers to send Renny a message. Give him your full name, Bobby. I need your last name, and I need an email. And if you do that, you will have your own frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. Ken, moving on, let's check out your pick for the keg save of the game.
Oh, there's only one choice here. I mean, even though there were a ton of great saves, especially by Logan Thompson, but his absolute robbery on Cole Perfetti is the keg save of the game. Just legitimately a candidate for save of the year. I think this there's no question. It is a point shot by Brendan Dillon, slapper. Thompson stops it, but has trouble with the juicy rebound, and then he just quite simply, Sean, goes into do the best you can to try to pull a rabbit out of a hat, and that's exactly what he does. Here's the precise quote from Logan Thompson. "Holy crap, I thought he was going to put it in, and I was just trying to get anything over there, and thankfully he hit my stick and it stayed out of the net." So it's one of those things where sometimes it hits you and sometimes it goes in. Well, this time it did not go in. It just hit him. And man, that's honestly, Connor Hellbuck has had a couple of these, Sean, that would have been absolutely ridiculous saves. This is an all-timer right here today.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it's not like Perfetti flubbed it. Perfetti hit it. Perfetti hit it. And he just pulled it out of the air, and that was just an absolute beautiful save by Logan Thompson. And you know what? Good for Perfetti for getting, in some ways went with the last laugh, if you will, even though the team didn't win, but he was able to get him. And Sean, I'm sure you noticed it. He almost got the poke check on him. Like, that's a really good play by Perfetti. He basically, I think, sneaks it underneath the poke check to get it across and then buries it on the backhand. So just an exceptional save right there by Logan Thompson, who, hey, this just in. Logan Thompson would like to have the net back after losing the starting job to Aiden Hill. And with efforts like that, he's going to keep earning starts from Bruce Cassidy and company.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Logan Thompson's save was the keg save of the game. I agree with you 100%. All you out there, you don't have to agree with us, but you're wrong if you don't. But what you should do is share with us your keg save of the game, because if you do, you are automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate and save $50 at the keg to go have one of their delicious steaks, some of their delicious chicken. They got it all there. They got it all. I've told you about the hey, let's bring up stuff we like. Stuffed mushrooms. Oh man, that's good stuff. This is gotta love the keg. It is. We should go hang out there, Ken. You and I just go for a night. Leave the
We are
wives at
due,
home
buddy. We're
instead of
due.
me. We are due. So we're gonna do that, and maybe you can come join us if you win the keg save of the game competition. But that's what you got to do. And hey, I'm gonna. Rennie's a man of the people, but Renny is also trying to get through all these keg saves of the game and these Lamplighters and the Johnston Group got you covered. And here's the thing, hashtag the keg. That's what it's supposed to look like. Linda Trudeau did it perfectly up in the comments before that. And hashtag Lamplighter. We're going to start trying to get towards that so that it's a lot easier for us to filter. And hey, I just want to say, if it's easier, it's less likely that we're going to miss your submission. So hashtag the keg, and then you can say save of the game after that. Just hashtag the keg so I can find it easily as the show goes through, and hashtag Lamplighter. That's the same thing. And it's time to announce our next winner. Scott Westman won last time. This time, the keg save of the game comes from a comment left on our YouTube page in the comment section below. And this is from at FRW546. So at FRW546, you are on the clock. You have until the next game when the Jets play the Edmonton Oilers to get a hold of Renny. And I need your full name. I need your email, and we will get you that keg $50 gift certificate so you can go and have just a lights out meal at the keg like we're all wanting to do right now. One thing I want to say, Ken, before we move on, I kind of want to call out our podcast audience, and it's easy for me to do that because the podcast audience isn't here live to chirp me back. But I'll say this. I don't know, Ken, that we're getting a lot of submissions from the podcast audience. Like the live audience is absolutely killing it. And, some of the people who are watching the YouTube video afterwards are leaving their comments. But the next day watchers, it's not too late for you to get in on this. So the more the merrier. Leave your comments. Find a way to leave the comments. Go to the YouTube page and leave it there or wherever. But get your comments.
DM us.
DMs, direct messages, all those kind of things. I mean, hey, I should be entering. If I could win this, I would just be picking myself as a winner every single time. I would be on the hot streak of all hot streaks. So you guys got to take the opportunity to do that. Finally, Ken, your Johnston Group got you covered play of the game.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's not necessarily just one play. I'm just going to give it to Vladislav Nemesnikov for his ability to slide into the center position and help provide the insulation. He did exactly what was being asked of him, to provide insulation for Cole Perfetti on the defensive side and to help try and spark Nikolai Ehlers, who chipped in his first 2 points of the season. One of them was on the power play, but one of them was vintage. This is vintage Ehlers. Vintage Ehlers in that he took the puck after the turnover by Stone inside the offensive blue line. He pushes the Vegas defenseman back with his speed. He finds Nemesnikov in the slot, and Nemesnikov makes a great play when the defenseman steps up on him. He makes a great backhand pass to set up the goal by Perfetti, which was his first goal and second point of the season. So for me, I mean, you can hand it out to every member of the line if you like, but for me, the fact that he was bumped up to the second line center job and did a nice job. Would he like to improve in the face-off circle? Sure. But overall, I thought his game was very solid, so I'm going to give it to him. And if you want to attach it to the backhand pass on the Perfetti goal, go right ahead. But this is more of a cumulative, we've got you covered, in that the Jets head coach Rick Bowness asked more of that second line, Sean, and he got more from it. And I think you could also say the same thing about the third line, and we'll get into that in a bit when we keep going here. But that is my we've got you covered play of the game for me.
I think you absolutely nailed it. And of course, that's the Got You Covered play of the game, brought to you by our friends, not just our friends, but the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnston Group. Love having them on board. Great to see them. Hey, Ken, I wanted to jump in a different direction here. And I'm only doing this. It's one of these times where if I'm following the comments, and I've noticed over the last little while, maybe not last little while, definitely the last couple of shows, people have been calling out And I should say, before we move on from the Johnson Group, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Ken, guys are calling out in the chat Rick Bowness and the coaching staff and suggesting they're not the right coaches for this team. I just wanted your take on that quickly, because there's been some persistent voices, to say the least, and I wanted to see if you thought that there was any of what we're seeing here that you would place at the feet of the coaching staff on why the Jets are 1-3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Can they do better? Sure. Anyone can do better when they're not winning, but the coaches aren't the ones turning the puck over in bad situations, Sean. And yes, the coaches can control ice time, but they're not rewarding the players who are making mistakes. I mean, we'll get into it in a minute, but I don't blame the coaching staff for a 1-3 record. I mean, Sean, you asked of Alex Iafallo, outside of the two, poor periods, like, out of the Jets' 12 periods, they've had 2 bad periods, essentially. So is that bad coaching? The fact that the Jets have had 2 bad periods out of 12? I mean, I don't consider that bad coaching. I'm not sure if you do, but the Jets are playing a more, they're playing an aggressive game, but they need to get their puck management up to par. Right now, it's not there. Is that coaching? The coaches aren't on the ice making the errors, and it's not their systems that are causing the errors. So do the Jets need to be better defensively? Yes, but it's hard to be great structurally when turnovers are happening because it's tough to adapt when turnovers happen. So no, I don't think that it's coaching. And for those people who feel that way, who are you bringing in? And what are you bringing in, an offensive coach to fix the Jets defense? I think Rick Bowness is a perfect coach to try and help the Jets with their defensive deficiencies. Here's the other part, Sean. The volume of shots allowed is down from last year. So I would say that the coach's message is resonating, but now they need to sharpen up in terms of their puck management.
I think you're bang on in that. Although I will say sometimes people will say mistake-prone teams, that's on the coaches, right? I don't know that I would say that in this situation. Like, Rick Bowness comes out and tells you what his team is supposed to look like. And I think what we would take away from this season so far is that outside those periods 2 and 3 against the LA Kings, we've seen a lot of examples of what this Jets team is supposed to look like. But they're killing themselves by turning over the puck. They're killing themselves by making these mistakes right now. I think that if the Jets hadn't had the issues that they had in the preseason, the injuries, the sicknesses, all the kind of upheaval that we've seen right now. Like, again, there's 4 lines that played here tonight, and they all had a new element on that line. So they're kind of learning as they go, kind of thing. I take a look at it, and I think, I don't know, as long as you're seeing the Winnipeg Jets are playing a style of game that is effective, and for the most part you're seeing it, that's the coach's job. This is the system under which we're playing. If you play to that system and that system works, then something that the coach is doing is working. It's the breakdowns that are costing them right now. And that's why I asked the question. I'm not sloughing this question off. I asked Rick Bowness after the game today, okay, so you've got a team that's mistake prone and they're making these mistakes. How do you get them to stop doing that? His take on it was like, you highlight it over and over and over again. You point out, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you just get through it. They're rooting out the mistakes like weeds in their game, which otherwise has been a pretty decent looking garden. So I'm not throwing this at the feet of Rick Bowness. I think, we saw what Rick Bowness's team looked like when they played his style last year. Did they fall apart down the stretch? Yes, but that to me is a carryover problem that the Winnipeg Jets have been struggling with for years, that Rick Bowness thought he had taken care of. And then, old habits reared their ugly head. So I need to see what the Jets look like 5, 6, 7 games outside of having a preseason where they couldn't really do the things that they wanted to do in preseason, and now they're trying to root those mistakes out in real time rather than doing it at the beginning of the year in preseason. But I'm not in the camp of people who thinks that Rick Bowness is messing this up. We see the Jets' style of hockey when they're playing Rick Bowness's game is massively effective. What they need to do is get to that style of game more and more and more often. So we'll see if that happens over the next little while. If they can't get there, and if they, resort to what we've seen in the past where they go to their old habits, if they can't get there, then there has to be a question of, hey, listen, if Rick Bowness has the best game plan, it doesn't matter if he can't get his team to execute it consistently. That consistency isn't there, so that this question is a fair question. I just think it's too early to say that he's not the guy who can get them there when we've seen so many examples of him getting them there over the last 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, and for people who haven't been watching, I mean, Vegas is one of the best teams in the NHL, Sean. They were 4-0 going into today, and they had outscored their opponents 15-5. And at one point in the third period, the Jets had taken it to them to the tune of about 10 or 11-0 in shots. And it wasn't because Vegas was disinterested. It was because the Jets cranked up their game and had them chasing a little bit. But here's the other thing. Much like LA on Tuesday night, Sean, Vegas doesn't panic when it seems like the roof is caving in. They're calm, and they expect to find a way to win, and that's what they did today. So another lesson to be learned from the Jets. They had a lot to like in the game, and they can't abandon themselves because they're not getting results. 1-3, of course they're disappointed in the record, but 2 bad periods out of the season so far, but far too many mistakes that need to be cleaned up, and that's the next step for them. Cleaning up those mistakes.
To the point of the calmness showed by the Vegas Golden Knights, I don't know if I ever told this story on air, but Alec Martinez last year, I asked him about after game 1 and that dominant performance by the Winnipeg Jets, and all of a sudden it looked like, things were in trouble for the Vegas Golden Knights. I asked Alec Martinez about Pierre-Luc Dubois after he'd scored on Laurent Brossoit and him going down and heckling him after the goal afterwards. And we had talked about it. It was reminiscent of him doing the same thing when they got scored on against, was it Calgary? And then he went all the way down the ice to chirp the Calgary goaltender, if you remember that. I asked Alec Martinez about that, and that was a moment when I thought, okay, these guys are really calm, because it looked like they'd been caved in by the Jets. And Alec Martinez very calmly, and we're talking about a former Stanley Cup winner, before that in Alec Martinez, a guy who'd been there. And he said to me, you know what, in my experience in the playoffs, those kind of plays by those kind of guys end up catching up with the team. And what I took away from that was like, eesh, I don't know that this, I think if you're Pierre-Luc Dubois, you want to get under a team's skin and kind of drive them nuts. And in that moment, I thought to myself, that's not going to have the effect that he's hoping it has. In fact, it's probably going to have the opposite effect, where he's kind of driving the other team nuts and motivating them. You could tell that Alec Martinez was pissed off that he'd done that. And you could tell he knew enough to channel that into playing good hockey, and that the ultimate revenge is knocking the Jets out of the playoffs, which happened. And you saw another example of that tonight, where just a calm team at every point of the game just, sat back, watched their goaltender kind of steal some stuff for them, and then just went out and got the job done when they needed to get it done. And all of a sudden the Jets are 1-3. Hey, want to give out some shout outs. We want to welcome officially back to the podcast a guy that I know you all missed because we saw you commenting about him. The larger-than-life figure that would be Lou Ferlin is back. Ken, do you want to give him a shout-out?
Yeah, no doubt. I had a great chat with Lou today. If you're in the market for real estate, whether you're buying, selling, maybe just curious what the house on the corner is worth, you should be calling our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. It's Lou at louferlin.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, and we're thrilled to have his support back for this season.
Let the stories resume, folks. And hey, let's give a shout out to Pristine Roofing, of course, on board this year. Hey, he called it 2-8. North End Rick, who is the guy who goes out and if you need some work done by Pristine Roofing, he'll be the guy to come and quote the job for you. North End Rick, he's taken a lot of heat for his call earlier on this show. Said 2-8, the Jets were going to go in the first 10 games of the season. It's still alive. It's still a possibility after they've gone 1-3. It's going to be a real interesting game against the Edmonton Oilers, of course, who are also 1-3. So two desperate teams going to be meeting up on Saturday. But hey, if you can forgive Rick for his 2-8 call and have it in your heart to go and get just the best group that you could possibly get in the city to come and take care of your roof, take care of your exteriors, what you want to do is give North End Rick a call, lambaste him for his 2-8 pick, and then say, Rick, by the way, we got some business to do here. Come on down. Let me know what we can do with our house here. I've got some issues, and I hear Pristine can solve them because they can. Give North End Rick a call at 1-204-981-6289, or go to Pristine Roofing's website. You can do that, or just simply call them at 1-204-237-7663 for the best roofing outfit in the city of Winnipeg and beyond, Ken. Hey, by the way, I've got a Pristine Roofing hat and a Pristine Roofing toque for you as well, because my noggin is too big for the one that North End Rick got for me. Let's move on.
Cambrian, one more. Let's do Cambrian,
and we'll nail that down. You've heard it from Ken and I before. We are both extremely happy to have them on board, because we like to kind of make sure that we are pushing people that we believe in, and Ken and I both clearly believe in Cambrian Credit Union because we are both customers there. We both have our mortgages there. I've found them to be just absolutely simple and easy to work with when it came to re-upping our mortgage, when it came to try and lock in at a good rate. They worked with us to make sure that happened. And of course, as I've said in the past, our daughter's bank there. We just went there last week and took care of a bunch of business. My father-in-law has been banking there since there was farmers' fields in a lot of the area in North Kildonan. So if you're looking for a place to do your banking or to go get your mortgage, the Cambrian Credit Union comes highly, highly recommended by Ken Weeb and myself, because we are not just people on a podcast with a sponsor. We are customers of theirs and can speak highly of them from our experience there. Ken, let's get into the Schmidt and Stanley flip-flop and what you're seeing out of Schmidt so far this year, what you saw out of Stanley tonight.
Yeah, I would say that we talked about this with Nikolai Ehlers the other day. I missed most of training camp. I would say that Nate Schmidt's a guy who's playing catch-up to a certain degree. I would say that, hasn't been his best start to the year. I would say that any healthy scratch will sting to someone with more than 600 NHL games on his resume, but to be scratched against a former team like the Vegas Golden Knights, where the departure was not what Nate Schmidt wanted after he was moved to the Vancouver Canucks in a salary cap situation, that would be something that definitely catches your attention. We could argue this till the cows come home, Sean. I would say that in this situation, I understand what Rick Bowness told us in the morning about the size being the determining factor here. Vegas plays a heavy game. That is accurate, but sort of to our point about what we've been talking about, if training camp was supposed to count for something, Declan Chisholm had a better camp. So I'm a bit surprised personally that Declan Chisholm didn't get the first crack at it. Now I understand a coaching staff deferring to a veteran player, especially one who has a little bit more size when you're playing a heavier team. And I know that Rick Bowness defended Logan Stanley's play today. I don't think he was at his best. I don't think he was poor, but I didn't see him impose his will physically in the game. What I would say is that if I'm Rick Bowness, I'm going to either put Nate Schmidt back in, but if you're looking to improve the defense core, or if you're looking for a different look on the back end, I think if this is truly an open competition, go with Declan Chisholm on Saturday. He's the only guy of that group that hasn't played. If this is really going to be an open competition, I personally would put Declan Chisholm in. It's going to be, a big speed game. Edmonton does not play as heavy a game as Vegas does. So in that instance, let Declan Chisholm go up against the Edmonton Oilers. Now, do you want to try to shelter him against Leon or Connor? Of course you would if you're the Jets coaching staff. But a guy who is known for his mobility and puck movement, I mean, a lot of the Jets' turnovers, Sean, are happening in the defensive zone. So you would want a guy who is a good outlet passer and has the speed and mobility and ability to get involved offensively. So without Gabe Vilardi, you know that the four lines of forwards are going to have to score, but you're also going to need defensemen to keep contributing out of the back end. I would say right now, Declan Chisholm has an opportunity to maybe provide some offense. So I personally would go with Chisholm. I'm not sure. What about you?
I would go with Chisholm. I mean, I saw Stanley. There was a couple giveaways tonight. I thought he had
four giveaways. Yep.
Yeah, I thought he played fairly well, but I don't think that. I guess put it this way: if he was put into the game because this was a bigger team and they wanted some size, like I didn't walk away from that game being like Logan Stanley is a bully out on the ice. He's pushing people around. And I do think this at this stage of Logan Stanley's career, it can't be about just coming into the game and surviving. It has to be about coming into the game and making a difference, right? Like this is a guy who's angling to be a full-time NHLer. He made it clear he wasn't happy with the time that he was getting. He wanted another chance elsewhere. But I mean, what that means then is when you are given your chance, you better shoot the lights out. And I didn't see him shooting the lights out tonight. I thought he had an okay game. But this is your opportunity to get in and make something happen against another really big team. He could have made life more difficult on players, you know, a number of them out there tonight. I didn't necessarily see that, but I guess the one thing I would, so yes, I'm ready to see what Declan Chisholm can do. Give it an opportunity. Is this the kind of person who's going to like grab the brass ring and run with it? That's the question at this stage, because this is what you're waiting to see. There's an opportunity here. Nate Schmidt has faltered, and other guys have an opportunity to kind of establish themselves as NHLers, which I think Dylan Samberg did by the end of last year and continues to do so far this season. But I'll say this, the entire situation with Nate Schmidt kind of confirmed to me, and yes, Ken, there's the idea of what happened to him in training camp, and he hasn't had as much runway. He's an older player, I guess, at this stage, you could possibly say, which means that, you know, missing out on that training camp may affect him potentially more than another player. But I had a sneaking suspicion that if Ville Heinola had not got hurt, that the Jets' top six would not have included Nate Schmidt. Like, I think that he was on his way to being the guy who was not in the top six. And this just confirms that suspicion to me. Nate Schmidt, I get the feeling, and we saw it a little bit last year. He got pulled out and healthy scratched in a game last season, handled it well, but he's starting to look to me like a guy who is potentially on the bubble, of an NHL team with younger players pushing to see if they can establish things. So if I'm Declan Chisholm, I smell blood in the water. And if I get an opportunity against the Edmonton Oilers, I think I have to look at myself and say, it's time to go out there and make a difference. It's time to go show. Declan Chisholm has some NHL games under his belt. So it's time now not to just go out and survive. It's time to go out and say there's a competition happening here. There's an opportunity to be one of the top six as long as Ville Heinola is not here. And I got to jump all over that because, again, I do not believe Logan Stanley did that tonight. He did not jump all over it for me tonight. There's an opening in the door here for Declan Chisholm. And if he gets that opening, he really better pounce on it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, you know, another quick thing that folks need to remember when it comes to Declan Chisholm, but also to Ville Heinola. Like, Heinola had basically got to a position where I think he may have won the job. I'm with you, Sean. I just think it would have made it easy for the coaches because Nate Schmidt hadn't played since the first preseason game and then suffered that lower body injury. You could have easily made the case that Nate Schmidt needed more time, right? And Heinola had played well enough. But folks, Ville Heinola is not in 8 weeks going to be the player he was in training camp when he won the job. That's not to say he can't get back to there, but he's going to need some time, probably with the Manitoba Moose, before he's game ready. He'll be playing catch up the same way Nate Schmidt was after he got hurt 2 days into training camp. So, I mean, Ville has the cavalry's not coming for quite some time, and after a fractured ankle, it's going to be take some time before he gets his speed game back up to speed. So that's further to your point. When it comes to Chisholm, it's up to him now to go out. He doesn't have to play a crazy game, but do something that gets noticed, play to your strengths, and if you can be an assertive puck-moving defenseman, you can win a job here, or potentially win a job, because the Jets' team defense hasn't been good enough, and you could provide an alternative right now. And, you know, I'll be curious to see if that's the way that the Jets go, first and foremost. And second of all, then it's up to Declan Chisholm. I mean, he hasn't played an NHL game in 2 years, so, you know, because of injuries last year. But I like the games that he played when he was up. I think he played against St. Louis and Detroit, and he is very mobile. He moves the puck well. He can check with his feet. He's doing a nice job getting to be a better defender, but now you got to do it at NHL speed against NHL competition. So that'll be the next step for him.
Yeah, we handled this already binaural, so you could go back and check that out. Okay, enough people. I mean, we didn't get to this last time, and I know people are still talking about it. It's still a topic of conversation here, as Tracy Okranik is talking about, you know, what's happening in the stands with the attendance here at Jets games. She says it's not just the ticket cost, it's tickets, parking, anything remotely resembling food, etc. Ken, we haven't weighed in on what we saw in that last game. And tonight was better, but it wasn't anywhere near where I think the Jets are hoping it would be. What's your take on what we're seeing in the stands right now so far?
Well, I mean, it's concerning. No, it's not, the team is in danger of moving tomorrow concerning, but let's face it, teams, doesn't matter what market a team is in, a sustained attendance in the 11 to 13,000 range is going to be a challenge. It's a gate-driven league. We understand that corporate support is also incredibly important to every single NHL team. But for the team that plays in the smallest building outside of the Arizona Coyotes, who are playing in a college rink, putting butts in seats is an important part of the equation. And we know about inflation. We know about tough times coming out of COVID and everything else. And I'm not here to tell a fan base how to spend its money. But it's not a sustainable model if the more tickets aren't sold. Now that's, ticket buyers, corporate buyers, and True North Sports and Entertainment, through whatever means necessary, have to have, big time conversations, and it's got to be a two-way street. And once that happens, I think that the message will get out, and then we'll see how people respond on all. It's a 3D conversation, Sean, for me. It's not just one of those three parties. It's not all on, the onus isn't all on them, but there needs to come to a point where people understand the importance of going to games, and the people that are putting on the games have to understand what the people that want to enhance their experience are coming from as well. And this is not just a Winnipeg Jets problem. Lots of people are pointing out, and one thing here, folks, this is not about the media making a story out of this. This is national news. I mean, people are talking about this all around the league. The San Jose Sharks had 10,000 the other night. Buffalo had 12 or 13 in a 20,000 seat building. This is a league-wide problem. It's not a Winnipeg problem, but no one here is drawing negative attention. This is being talked about around the league at a league level. So I would just say improvements need to be made on all fronts, and we enjoy covering the NHL, Sean. I mean, that goes without saying, but we're not the ones being asked to buy tickets. So
exactly, yeah.
I'm not telling people how to spend their money.
No doubt. A couple of things I wanted to bring up here. It's one of the things, like I like this comment from Arc Sign, who says it's embarrassing. It's okay to have down years, downtime, but why does Winnipeg immediately get threatened with a relocation while Buffalo doesn't? And this is fair enough. And I did have Pat Rathwell, who's in the chat room. I don't know if he's still here, but he got a hold of me the other day, and he seemed like fairly bothered by the idea that this is such a story nationally. And I did check in with how we were covering it on Sportsnet. And apparently we actually haven't really been running with this on Sportsnet, although I think we may have today. I know that I talked about it with Carol and Cameron before the game on Hockey Central. I mean, it's the Winnipeg story. Winnipeg lost a team and then they got it back, right? So this is going to hit. So it's. I'd said this to Pat. Like, the Arizona Coyotes have been struggling. They're playing in a building with 5,000 people, and the NHL at every turn is saying they're not going anywhere. And for years they've been saying that team's not going anywhere. And so I think that the risk seems so much greater when it happens in Winnipeg, because we've lost a team before. This city's lost a team before. So it seems far more real than a place where we're basically conditioned to see no one in the stands for years in a place like Florida, and very few people in the stands in a place like Arizona, and actually think that it is going to result in that team relocating, right? So if people are questioning about the way that the media is talking about it, I think that that's driven. I think that that storyline is out there because, and I'm just going to be honest, I think people care about a team being more in Winnipeg than they do about a team in Sunrise, Florida, or in Arizona. And because of that, it's a little bit more sound the alarm bells, not as a way of like beating down on the Winnipeg market, but saying, I think hockey fans don't want to see Winnipeg lose its team. So there's a concern there, right? But I want to bring something up as well. Maul said as soon as we started talking about this, time to blame the fans and not the ownership. And I guess Maul figures he knows exactly what we're going to say. And I don't know, Maul's Maul can be a little, Maul, you can be a little negative. We've seen it before. And but I get you going here. I get what you're trying to say here. I have to say, I'm full on with Maul in this situation where I hate the idea of blaming this on Winnipeg Jets fans. I hate that idea. I hate the idea that anyone anywhere else in the country or in the league would take a look and suggest that Winnipeg can't support a team. I don't think it's fair to go after the fans that have been so rabid for so long. I do think that there has to be a little bit of a look at. We talked about this. We're on record as saying this, Ken, or at least I'm on record as saying this last year. I didn't like the Winnipeg Jets ticket drive that they had for the playoffs last year. I thought there was a thinly veiled threat in there that, like, you got to show up or the team's going to leave. I don't like Winnipeg Jets fans being bent over the barrel like that. I think at the heart of this, and yes, fans have to show up, but this is a business. And as a business, the business needs to find out why feels disenchantment at times from fans. Maybe there's less excitement, whatever's happening here. The tricky part about this, Ken, is hey, I had the Perlator Courier guy stop by. I was changing the spark plugs in my truck today, and he recognized me, and we got talking, and he gave me the reasons why he didn't think he was going to come to a Jets game this year, right? Now, I think that it's important that this building gets filled, because I think as a city, we want the Jets to be here. I think we're all hoping that there's going to be great crowds in this building, right? But when someone comes and tells me that they can't make it because of this or because of that or because of that, who am I to tell them that they're wrong and just shut up and get your butt back in those seats? I guess what I'm saying here is I think there needs to be a real conversation between the Winnipeg Jets organization and its fans. If they're not doing focus groups to find out why people aren't coming, because you're hearing anecdotal stories, I'm hearing anecdotal stories. I know a lot of people who gave up their season tickets. I know a lot of people who gave up their season tickets in frustration. There needs to be an open dialogue and a conversation. There needs to be a movement by the Winnipeg Jets to say to the people who aren't in this building anymore, because it used to be packed and there used to be lineups for people to get in there. There's got to be a conversation, and there has to be an effort by this business to say to its fans, Why did you leave, and what will it take for you to come back? And if that conversation isn't started and isn't happening already, it needs to happen. Because I will say this place needs to be full in order for this to work and to go on here. But I'm not willing to say it's on the fans if this building isn't being filled. It's partial by the fans, but it is incumbent on the Winnipeg Jets to sell the fans on this place, on being in this building and coming time and time and time again. And in order to do that, like any business, like the businesses that advertise with us, like I had to do when I was roofing, you have to meet the expectations of what your fan base wants from you, and that has to be happening in this situation here. I will never be the guy who takes a look at all the amazing things I've seen these fans pull off over the years, over the decade, over past the decade, and what I saw from them the first time around. Winnipeg is a hockey town. I said this when I thought that the Jets were going to rebuild. I think the Jets could handle a rebuild. I don't like Winnipeg fans being besmirched and told that they're not a hockey city. They are, but you also have to meet them as customers and make sure that your customers are happy. That needs to happen in this situation. So we need to find out from Winnipeg Jets fans what they need, what they feel they need to get back into this building and pack it full time. That conversation needs to happen, because this needs to turn around and there needs to be better numbers in this building. Ken, you have anything to say before we shut it down?
No, I mean, just the other thing about, Arizona, like Arizona has a $6 million population, so, and a big corporate base. So people saying, well, what about Arizona? Well, it's apples to oranges, people. That's not the same thing. So it's not to say that, that's why the league has tried to make it work there. So we are in a small community and certain things have to be taken care of. And I think that all parties are going to have their voices heard. And, we know that the Jets have made a big time investment in the arena improvements, and that would lead, they didn't do that to improve their AHL experience, Sean. They did that to enhance the NHL experience. So, it's something that is going to be looked at for a long time in the next little stretch here, because, we'll see what happens. But, the Vegas Golden Knights are a big draw. There's a lot of Manitoba connections. They're the defending Stanley Cup champions, and there were, just over 11,000 here today. So,
yeah. Well, and I'll say this: people were bringing up the business community as well, and you're right to bring that up. It's another thing, Ken. Like when it comes to the business community, they more so, like, I think the fans for the most part are doing this out of passion, right? I've said this before. If you are a season ticket holder since day one, you have foregone purchasing a brand new vehicle for yourself to get your butt into these seats here and watch this team play. For businesses, a lot of times why you're doing it is there's a return on business for this. So there has to be a way where the Winnipeg Jets as a business can meet other people in the corporate community and convince them that doing business here is good business and good for business and is going to turn you a profit. Everyone's under that. Ken, for our sponsors, we've said this before, we want to be we've said this to our sponsors, we want to be a positive return for them. We want to make sure that whatever they are investing in us, we're trying to return it to them twofold, threefold, fourfold, however much we can. And that's got to be the attitude. It's got to be the attitude that if you are a corporate investor in the Winnipeg Jets, you are going to get something out of it. And that's the situation here. Again, there's got to be a dialogue. It's a conversation that needs to start happening, if it hasn't started happening already, that what do the fans need to get back into this building? That's the question that needs to be asked. We need to get into the minds of fans and figure it out, because that, to me, is the direct way to solve this problem. Ken, anything else to say before we go?
No, just last thing, I would say that the third line for the Jets looked excellent today. Iafallo obviously had a great game. Lowry, thought Niederreiter, as we expected, fit right in on that line, and they were very good. I mean, I understand that some of the analytics weren't great for the top line today. Scheifele had plenty of chances. Kyle Connor had some chances, but that line's got to continue to do a nice job, and we'll see what happens. Another big. It's funny. We talked about this early. It's going to be Game 5 for the Jets on Saturday, but
Yeah.
you don't want to dig yourself a big hole. Elliot Friedman was talking today. His November 1st date. If a team is not within 4 points on November 1st, never mind U.S. Thanksgiving, they have a 15% chance of making the playoffs. So losses stacking up early on, no matter how a team plays, is a problem. And we know how tight it was for the Jets this year or last year when they had the best start in franchise history. So the Jets are not on pace for the best start in franchise history. They're going to have to see what they can get done here in the next little bit, and we'll see what happens from there.
Okay. Hey, everyone, we really appreciate you coming around. Like I said, hey, we've been through this before. We know that there's some low points in the Jets season. There's a lot in there to like. There's a lot of stuff they need to clean up. Just like our show, Ken. You did a great job tonight. There's some stuff you can clean up in there. There's a ton of stuff I can clean up in here. And even some of the people, hey, look, if Maul can go from, I don't know if I can find him here, but if Maul can go from me saying he's negative to turning it around and becoming positive Maul right before our eyes, then we can all do better. So great job, Maul. Great job, chat room. And I just wanted to say, if you appreciate the conversations happening in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep this conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, the Trans-Canada Brewing Company, the Keg, Johnston Group, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, and Cambrian Credit Union. Thanks to them. Thanks to you, Ken. Great job. Thanks to all of you. And we can't wait to see you for Game 5 to see if the Winnipeg Jets are going to start turning it around or if things are going to get a little dicey should they fall to 1-4. Either way, whatever happens, we'll be here to talk about it afterwards, and we sure hope you join us. We will see you then, everybody.